Hello and welcome to another episode of How Are You Holding Up? A mental health podcast by the depressed for the depressed. I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Chris.
And today we have a special guest.
Hello.
This is Shelby from Scare You to Sleep.
Hi, Shelby.
Hi, everybody. I'm from Scare You to Sleep. Yep, that's me.
And what do you do on that?
I read scary stories in a much gentler voice than I have right now. And I scare you to sleep. Yeah, I use like sound effects and all kinds of cool stuff. And yeah.
Which brings us to what we're talking about today.
Which will be fears. Whether or not they are fears that you've adopted from having the shit scared out of you, or they're fears that you may have been born with. Mm-hmm. We're talking all sorts of fear today. And insecurity.
Yes. So, Shelby, why did you decide to go into scaring people to sleep?
Well, I've always been a huge fan of the paranormal and horror movies and all that fun stuff. It started because I was a really nervous little kid. Like, I was just scared of everything. But my dad was a police officer, and he would show me very graphic photos from crime scenes to kind of as a, like, look at what the world is. And my mom was really into horror movies and ghosts, and her whole side of the family is very into the paranormal. And so between those two, it was like, well, I've either got to get into this stuff or be the most nervous person for the rest of my life, which I'm still a very nervous person, but I've decided to make it my bread and butter rather than, something that cripples me.
I mean, that's kind of incredible that you decided to buck up and...
That's already a step in the right direction.
Yeah. What were some things that affected you when you were younger that you were nervous about, and how did it affect you?
I have a lot of social anxiety. I'm a really shy person, and I was a really shy kid, and for some reason, I noticed a lot, and my mom had this problem too because she's pretty shy, but like being a shy person also kind of translate to a lot of people as people think you're stuck up, yes. Which my social anxiety made me like want to vomit because it was like, oh God, I'm afraid to talk to you. And because I'm afraid to talk to you, you think I hate you. Yes. And now I'm doubly very upset. And so that's probably like my biggest, I was just like some people are born just scared of things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's something that I've had to deal with. I know a few people who they've told me, they're like, I come off like I'm stuck up or I've been called I'm a bitch, but I'm just really terrified of going up and talking to people. I don't know how to get the ball rolling and how to ingratiate.
Totally. I have that type of personality where I assume everyone's going to find my personality repugnant and just absolutely not think I'm funny or charming or anything. And I'm like, I just better not then.
It's always really funny when you have those kind of societal fears as opposed to like me. For the longest time when I was a kid growing up, I was terrified of just spiders. Oh, yeah. Like, yeah. I was fearful of spiders, particularly because of the movie Arachnophobia.
So scary. I'll never forget that moment where it falls, that clinking sound of when they spray the trees and one of the giant spiders fall into a bucket. And they're like, and they walk over and it's this huge, For
some reason, the part where it kills a bird really bothered me, and it's just a bird.
It was the
shower scene.
The shower scene was the one. I didn't take a shower for like 2 or 3 years after that. I just took baths. God. I was like, at least I could drown this motherfucker.
No, yeah, same. In the shower, I like grew up in the desert and we had those giant wolf spiders.
You have reasons to be scared of spiders,
and they're not even mean. They're just they're huge and hairy though, and they looked like the arachnophobia spiders. Oh my God, just no.
But it's interesting. I think spiders are really socially acceptable fear.
Mm-hmm.
They make movies out of it.
Definitely. And it's very common.
Yeah, you can talk. I mean, unless it's totally something where you shut down as a human and won't leave your house for. Not wanting to talk to... I wonder if there's a difference between, like, extrovert fears and introvert fears, where it's, kind of a...
Well, I mean, I fall under a strange category of extrovert in that I have those social anxieties as well.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't feel as bound by them. Like, I don't feel like they're as big of a deal for me of like, well, I'm gonna have that anxiety of like, okay, social anxiety, ahoy.
Yeah. What does that feel like to you though when you're actually having it? Can you
It's like recall? For me it's a mild heart palpitation where I'm just like, okay, I feel a heightened sense of what's going on, and I'm going to go.
Yeah, nervousness.
Exactly, it's nervousness, and it's going to be something that's going to push me to kind of just like, okay, I could either just get up and do this, or I'm going to freak out and leave. So let's do this.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, what happens in my body is that my hands get sweaty, my feet get sweaty. I start sweating kind of everywhere. I feel nauseous. My heart's going 1,000 miles an hour, and I literally blank out if somebody asks me a question. So last night at one point, I was at a party, and I was talking to people and having a good time. And then I just was saying things, and I didn't know what I was saying, and I wasn't in my body anymore.
I do the same thing. Yeah, and then you're rambling, and it's like, well, this is why I don't talk to people.
I was like tripping over my words and not really making sense, and then suddenly you're back in your body, and you look around, and everyone has this like sort of smile, this polite smile on their face, and you're like, oh, cool. Everyone hates me.
What did I say?
I'm never coming outside again.
I can totally.
So I think when you have when you're depressed and you have certain fears and phobias, they can really, and I don't know, maybe even being depressed creates new fears and phobias.
Absolutely.
Because of the self-esteem. That's something that you were talking
about. I think it's such a big deal of like, when you're in a depression and you're in your head a whole lot, you start to just manifest fear. It's almost like it's not even like a choice at that point. It's just a deeper and deeper thought pattern that just goes, well, at first I just thought this person maybe didn't like me. Well, maybe they really don't like me. Maybe they're going to try to kill me or something. If you go really deep into that rabbit hole,
for sure.
Eventually you're just like, but here's the thing. There's a necessity for fear
right
in life, right?
Definitely. I mean, there's a reason as humans we have fear. It's, it's a warning to ourselves that over, generations we've evolved it into different weird things like being afraid of other people. But I mean, there's even they've even talked about how different types of people, I mean, different ethnic groups have different fears that are deep-seated in them.
It's similar to, like, here's one of those interesting things is while there's that kind of generational gap going on, but there's also cultural gaps that are branched by fear.
Oh, for sure.
Where, think about a culture and think about their version of the boogeyman.
Oh, yeah.
There's at least, from Baba Yaga to La Llorona to all. You just go to every culture and they have their own version of an evil entity that's going to come and take you in the night.
Yeah.
And these are scary stories we tell to our children.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like on my show, I recently did a kids episode, and I was kind of asking around to friends of mine who have kids because it's been a long time since I've been one, and so I was just like, okay, what's appropriate for kids, And I feel like, and I was getting a lot of things shot down by them, but I was like, but when we were kids, we had the scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah.
And those were like brutal. Like a few of them, I didn't read them because they're not public domain, and I don't want to step on any of that, but I went through them just to give it an idea of the intensity.
Some super scary ones.
One of the most famous ones that we all know is the one where she takes her ribbon off her neck and her head falls off. Like, and it was just like, okay, I don't know if this new generation, it just seems, at least within my friends group, I don't, this is just a small group of people, but it seems like we're almost moving away from that. We're moving away from scaring children, and I wonder if it's because they have actual really scary shit to deal with right now.
That's
like,
interesting, though.
Yeah. And I was just like, there was one that I was going to read, and it was literally just about a kid who gets lost on his first day of school, and he ends up in this classroom, and blah, blah, blah. And the next day, he's talking to the principal, and it turns out the teacher was a ghost or something. Right. It was to me, it was very innocent. Yeah. But the first thing, two separate friends were like, oh no, school shootings, you cannot mention ghosts within a school.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm so glad I asked you.
Yeah, seriously.
Because I didn't go there, and I'm not a kid. And of course I take consideration to these school shootings, and it's very, it's a huge problem. But the fact that, just...
You weren't growing up during the times where there were a lot of them.
And I was like, maybe this is why so many of them are shooting down these stories that we heard as kids that were just, our parents wanted to scare us, but it was fun,
Do people reach out to you and thank you for helping them with a fear? Or, like, they feel like they're processing through, or they feel almost supported by, like, one of their fears or something?
I mean, honestly, not really.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder if people just avoid it entirely because they don't want to be scared.
Yeah, I do have several friends who have been like, I tried to listen, but and I'm like, that's fine. It's fine. You're not into scary stuff, and that's just the fact that you tried is very supportive, and it's great, but...
Well, I think in a first world country, in a lot of ways, we don't have, just as humans, I think we do crave sort of a fearful... that energy that you can get. That's why we have scary movies and roller coasters. We want the adrenaline. It's part of our makeup.
Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah,
and various
for
other
sure.
things.
Yeah.
Scared. But now, as we're kind of moving into scarier times, it's hard. I didn't even think about it to put myself in the shoes of the kids growing up right now. Because you forget this is this really sensitive time where you're developing and you're finding out if the world is safe or not. And that's pivotal in how you're going to be as an adult and how you're going to act with certain stigmas.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. We have a lot of teenage listeners and supporters of the podcast. So, I mean, it's you guys really that we want to reach out to and be like, you're going into some scary fucking times right now. Especially just being a teenager is scary enough.
Oh, yeah.
And I think what we've talked about before is it's hard that you have so much in your face about it all the time. You can see the pictures and videos and interviews and, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, you couldn't really see that stuff. I mean, now it's just, you have to actually actively protect yourself, especially because I think parents right now don't know how much information their kids are seeing.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. It's a constant barrage of news from questionable sources.
Yeah.
Even the good sources are just, it's just constant negativity, and you see the world as this terrifying place. A thing that, when we were in school, I mean, there were cell phones, but we didn't have smartphones that were constantly connected to the internet throughout the day. It boggles my mind, the fact that, friends of mine who are teachers and my little cousins who are in high school, it's like, oh my God, you have a computer at in your
pocket,
beck and call all the time, and it's like, I know I have one, but the thought of having that in high school or junior high is just insane to me.
It was always so weird to me when I first got a phone in high school, where I was just like, this is with me at all times.
Yeah.
I should just dial home. I can call for emergency services.
People. Yeah.
What the hell?
Well, I think that really ties into a lot of insecurities as these kids and even a lot of people who are called millennials, which is anyone born after 1984. They deal with the insecurity of social media not being liked enough on their stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And it being, directly tied to their self-worth and self-esteem.
They're completely afraid of not becoming famous, which it's so interesting to me because, I know we're technically in a different generation. We grew up, being famous was this thing that some people became, but it wasn't, something that would rock your entire world if you didn't become it. It was just kind of a plus to some people. But these kids these days, it's that's almost a requirement. You've got to be somewhat famous
somebody.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy to me. I mean, even now, I have a lot of friends who are actors who they go to auditions. First question they ask is how many Instagram followers you have. Which to me, it's what does that have to do with what we're doing here?
I have a friend who's trying to get an agent who was asking that.
Yeah.
The agencies wouldn't pick them up if they didn't have more than a certain... Which is ridiculous because you can pay people to be followers.
Yeah.
You can pay
of course.
Especially,
companies.
I'm sure you guys have gotten it now with the podcast. You get those things online on Instagram now. It's pay to have followers.
Yeah.
And it's
atrocious.
Thank you.
And I think it was interesting. I was reading, I was watching this Harvard study. I don't know if I've talked about it, about happiness. And it's been generational now where they've gone through, 4 or 5 generations. But the key to happiness is how good your relationships are in your personal life, knowing that people have your back no matter what. Didn't have to do with financial success, didn't have to do with your education or where you are. So that fear of not becoming famous, I mean, you have no idea the stuff famous people have to deal with.
Oh yeah, no, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
It's a horrifying world to be monitored 24 hours a day by people who want to know what your life is, want to know how your life is, want to know what you're doing at every moment of every day. Whose clothes are you wearing?
What you feel about every issue. That's one thing I've noticed is a lot of celebrities now, it's become a requirement where I've seen on Twitter where it's something political will come up, doesn't matter what, and it's people will tweet them saying well, what do you feel about this though? And it's wow, before celebrities were just kind of this, I don't want to say just a joke, but they kind of were. It was this goofy, fun thing we'd read about in the tabloids, but now they become
almost
politicians, where you go to
educators.
for your opinions on big issues, and
those kind of things, I feel like it's almost an inverse agoraphobia where you want to know who's on your side.
Yeah.
You want to know who's got your back, so you're going to ask like the celebrities that you support and be like, "Well, I support you in this. Do you support me in this cause?"
Yeah.
And it's a weird comforting thing, but that falls into like the phobias versus insecurities, where we have our genuine fears about a lot of things in life. Fears of guns, fears of, crimes being committed against us.
Clowns.
Fear of clowns, fear of long words, which has the best phobia name ever, by the way.
Oh no, is it long?
Hippopotomonstrosis phobia.
I'm sorry if that's your phobia.
Yeah,
I apologize.
If you have a fear of long words, there you go. Go to your shrink, tell them that.
There is a fear, too, like, where you think, like, a duck is watching you at all times. Yes. I can't remember what it's called, but I remember that.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, to be afraid of that's scary.
Well, now I know what my story is going to be for the next scare you to sleep.
There you go. Ducks watching you.
Ducks watching you.
All the time.
So one of the big things that I feel like are almost universal fears, a lot of the things that we kind of get, we got into like 3 different types. There's societal fears, where it's, social norms and crap like that. And then there's...
Give an example for each, for some people who maybe don't. Yeah.
So like societal fears are just like fears of fitting in.
Right.
Fears of being an outcast, fears of being, neglected by the ones that you love.
Sure.
Fears that you're going to disappoint people.
Yeah.
Things like that. Those all fall under like societal fears. Then, of course, there's monetary fears, like... Monetary fears. Monetary fears are like things of just, well, what am I going to be able to survive for the next year?
I'm bad about monetary fears.
Yeah.
I, have a total money anxiety.
Do you?
Yeah, it's totally attached to all money. Like, I went through a really bad period where we were, broke for a good way too long of a time, and it literally gave me a sort of PTSD when it comes to money. It's something I really have to work through, and something that every time we even get a paycheck, it's but why even bother? We're just gonna be broke, and it's so terrible. Even now we're doing fine, and it's I get these depressions over just money. It's insane. It's really bad.
What's a trigger for you?
Honestly, anything, bills coming in, even if we're we can pay them, just today we paid our gas bill, no problem. Gas bills are always super cheap anyway, but even just seeing a bill.
What was the physical?
It's just I just get really depressed and I get really anxious, and I'm just I start thinking about I start doing a lot of math in my head, which I'm not even very good at math, so it's not good. And so it's just this weird, I get into this weird snowball effect where I almost make up things that are going to cost money that don't. So I basically figure out a way in my head to make us broke because of this one thing. And it's so insane. Yeah.
So during the stock market crash, the first stock market crash back in the 20s and 30s, Groucho Marx famously was affected by it to the point where he had insomnia for the rest of his life.
Wow.
So
He was because he was practically ruined by it.
Yeah.
So that kind of fear, that physical reaction of just well, if I go to sleep, then something horrible might befall us.
Well, yeah.
While I'm sleeping.
It could all be gone.
It's not even something that I'm personally responsible for.
Right.
I'm just going to sit there and just sleep soundly through a terror like that.
Well, I think part of that fear is just you're just out of control. You don't
Yeah,
have
for
control
sure.
of those things. You can't help it.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of during just our generation, it's harder to find jobs that pay and give you hours and benefits and just multitude of things that we've all been affected by.
And we're being blamed for it.
Exactly. We're being blamed for it. And I listened to the Les Miserables soundtrack a lot because I was very let's start a revolution. I'm over it.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Oh, I love it. No, that's a terrifying time, and we don't exactly live in the cheapest state either.
Oh,
it's
We don't live
and
in
not
the cheapest
city of the cheapest of the
No.
yeah. It's
So it's a culmination of all of these horrors, just kind of racking our brains at all times. So it also leads us to familial fears, things like a biological clock, if you are somebody who wants to have a child, or maybe you're single and you're getting older and you feel fears that you're just going to be alone for the rest of your life or something, or
yeah, I don't know what that's like at all.
no, I don't think either of us know what that's like at all. So it's things like that where these are all things that people go through, and we don't feel really anything that we can do to fix that.
I just had coffee with a friend the other day, and she's younger. She's like, I want to say like 25 or 26. And she brought up the fact that my husband, who was also on this podcast a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, not days. Oh my God. This is not a daily
Welcome
podcast.
to the time warp.
Yep. Anyway. But yeah, she like brought up the fact like, oh, do you and James want kids? And I was just like, yeah, maybe, like, we've talked about it, but, like, I'm getting older, and it's just not in the cards for us right now, so, and she, like, stopped, and she was just like, yeah, but, I mean, it's non-negotiable, right? Like, you're going to have kids, and I was just like, actually, like, neither of us are, I was like, I know some people, like, they had a calling to be a mom, and that's what they want to be, which is great, that's totally fine, I just never had that. I was like, I love kids, I would love to have kids, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, I'm just not one of those people, and she was appalled, and it really bothered me because I was like, who are you to like tell me I'm not living life right because I like might not have kids? And like she was like, it's just not a negotiation for me, like that's just going to happen, and I'm definitely going to have them before I turn 30, which I just turned 30, so it's kind of like
goodness.
All right, like what's the time?
I find it interesting that she took it so personally.
She did,
and it was I don't know, like, is that because it was like bringing up this weird,
it was bizarre frantic. It was like, are you living through me right now? Because she just went through a breakup and everything, so but I was just like, I don't know what is happening right now.
I think, a big thing, our fears are sold to us, I think, a lot, through social media and consumerism, and have children, and you're not a woman unless you have children, and you're not going to really fulfill which brings us to the different fears that women and men face. And now we're not going to say that these are totally exclusive.
No.
Obviously there's overlap, but I think,
and of course there's also our non-binary friends who've got plenty of fears of their own. In fact, I feel like it. We will absolutely, we're going to have an entire episode just dedicated to, like, the fears involved in being non-binary or trans or anything of that sort.
I can't even imagine.
It's no, trust us, we got something good for you guys coming up.
We can only speak from our experience.
Yes, exactly.
So that's where we're going to be coming from, so thank you.
That said, though, for us, women, men, we all have our own individual kind of fears that we all have to deal with in some ends. But I mean, like we were just talking before we started recording, dating. So I know some people who would consider themselves bisexual, and I find it really interesting when they go out on a date with a man. Everyone is like, make sure you text us. Let us know how you're doing throughout the date. What's his name? Yep. Do you have his social media? And then it's when they go out with a girl, have fun. Yeah.
Totally. And and like I'm guilty of that too. I could totally feel the whole like friends of mine who go out with guys. It's like, oh my God, yeah, like let me know when you get there, let me know when you leave, let me know when you get home. Like, did he follow you home? Because I don't know. Yeah, and then if they go out with a girl, I had never really thought of the fact that I do that to my friend until you said that, and I was like, oh.
It's so ingrained in us. It's so natural. Like, I was raised to walk to my car with my keys in my hand. I was raised to not get too drunk at parties because you never know what could happen.
Oh, for sure.
Watch what I wear.
Don't walk down the street with headphones.
Don't run with headphones.
Don't
hike alone. My mom always discouraged it, which created an agoraphobia for me, and I kind of stopped going out around college at all.
Whereas men in dating, the fears that we usually are getting thrown at us are like, man, if you have sex, make sure that you use your own condom because a girl might be trying to have you. She might be trying to
trap you.
Yeah, she might be trying to trap you.
Trap you with a kid.
Yeah, trap you. Like, things like that, which I never once in my life believed.
That must be so rare.
It's the stupidest fucking thing.
Below the 1%.
Yeah, it is. The fears that we have are just, like, so minuscule.
What if I don't get laid?
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, so stupid things like that. Men's fears are just so, I don't know.
They're real.
They are real.
But they maybe have a different Wait.
I can't really even think of like I think one of the things that men have to a little more often maybe is catfishing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have heard of that. happening a lot.
That might be a bigger
Definitely.
thing, or like, you know.
Girls just going out with you to have a free dinner.
Yeah, there was a guy actually who got arrested for that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, there's a guy who got arrested because he was taking women out and that he met on like fucking Tinder or something, and he would like dine and dash.
Yeah.
But like he would take them to these like crazy
Really
expensive
expensive
restaurants, and they
Uh-huh.
said he would like weirdly order like 3 entrees.
Oh my god.
And then, like, just disappear. Like,
Oh
one
my
chick got
God.
stuck with, like, a $250 bill that she could not pay. And luckily, the restaurant was, like, very, like...
Understanding.
Yeah, they're very understanding. I think she just had to pay for, like, her half.
How
but,
horrible.
Yeah.
yeah, they finally caught him. He's going to jail or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So things like that where it's like,
But you know, those fears create these problems with intimacy.
yes.
They really spiral into who can you be close with, and it
Yes.
just kind of compounds when you're, let's say, with somebody and you're in love, and then it doesn't work out. You're like, well, I knew it because blah 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 blah. You know.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And then I think one thing, like, a lot of things with, like, the Me Too movement and everything, a lot of men are very angry and feel very defensive because not all men, that whole thing.
That whole thing.
But I think a lot of men, like I know you know this, Rockefeller, but, like, I know that, like, a lot of men do realize this, but women, we were taught from a young age to be terrified of men. Like,
Yes.
rightfully so in a lot of situations, and they have to understand, like, we were taught by our own fathers, our own brothers, our own uncles, our own grandpas. Men are terrifying, they're awful, and, like, you should be scared of them. So it's kind of like, I know, like, the whole not all men thing, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, the men have been telling us to be afraid of you, and you haven't improved on those things we need to be afraid of.
And now you're just being angry and making fun of us.
Yeah,
for
now
it.
you're just mad that, like, I don't know, we're not heeding your advice enough or something about not setting our drink down on the bar, you know?
I mean, well, think about it this way also. Like, men were always raised with the notion of when you go to a girl's house, her dad's gonna answer the door with a shotgun in hand and be like, "You touch my daughter, you better make sure that it's only to help her into the car." You know, things like that, where it's not. Look, guys, just be a good human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to worry so much about it.
So what other male fears do you think are maybe the really deeply painful or seated that you guys don't talk about a lot?
Oh, definitely just like being manly. Like there's always a fear for, you know, especially men who may be more effeminate or they have more considered effeminate interests, you know, like men who are into cooking, men who are into being good about their personal hygiene.
Anything domestic.
Anything domestic.
Really?
It's considered to be a kind of effeminate trait, and then you're just like, well, you're not being manly enough. Or
What's that like fallout feel from
the
that?
fallout from that is always just like, I mean, I still remember when I was in culinary school, which is in such a boys' club. Culinary school, there was a moment where like I was like holding my hands up before I like went back to the dough or something, which because it was covered in sticky dough.
Yeah.
It's sticky dough, and I remember having like a chef instructor come up to me and be like, "It's kind of girly how you're holding your hands, isn't it?"
Oh my god.
Which is also like, why does that even, like, why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
of
the
all,
whole toxic
like,
masculinity
It's
thing.
so
It's like,
bizarre to me.
why imagine, like, I can't imagine feeling so fragile about your own masculinity that's like, you can't hold your hands that
Well,
way.
don't hold
Right.
your hands that way because you might be too manly.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
As having them say that to me.
So the manly way of holding your hands apparently is just like punching the dough constantly.
Punch it.
Just
Punch it until it marries you.
Oh no.
Club it. Bring it back to the cave.
Yep.
But what's a good way moving into like conquering these
Yes.
fears, and for people who like live daily with fear, especially social anxieties? What do you think has helped you guys?
I think the number one thing that's helped me absolutely is exposure. Like if I'm scared of something, the best way that I've ever found to getting over that fear or conquering it is just, well, let me experience it. Because most of the time it's the fear of the unknown that
yeah. Definitely.
really triggers us.
But what gets you that bravery to do it? Because what if someone is absolutely paralyzed by their fear? Like, what were your mental steps? Because there's definitely steps before
Yes.
deciding to do exposure. Which exposure is just doing a lot of it, or at least...
Being given little tiny microdoses.
Touching all the spiders.
Yeah, yeah. Hold a tiny spider in your
my
hand,
gosh.
then a
All the
bigger,
spiders.
then a bigger, then a bigger, until eventually there's a spider on top of you that's like 50 pounds. And
That's
you're
horrifying?
like, I feel okay about this. So no, that's no. It's microdosing. Like
Okay.
it's really just finding that thing that freaks you out and just step into it, tip a little toe in, dip a little toe into that water, and
and like I would say like education. Like I was telling you guys earlier, I'm afraid of space, and I'm like actually like I have a huge space phobia. Like it bothers me. I can't think about it too much. It's one of my few ones left that I'm like actually like it kind of paralyzes you. It's like it's almost in a like. It's just this feeling of it's so big and I'm so small, and if your mask cracks, you just freeze to death or explode. I don't know which. It depends on which movie you watch. And I don't know. It's so unknown. It's just so many bad things. Yeah. The idea of like there are black holes. Don't know what's in them. I don't know. Maybe it's a whole other time, in space and another Earth, or maybe you are into pieces, but you're still conscious or something. I don't know.
But terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's just terrifying. Everything like this. I think ever since I was a kid, where they're like, yeah, the sun could like explode.
Oh my gosh.
It just could. And it's like,
So you said education helped you.
Yeah, education, just like kind of learning more. Because you can't, I can't really get space exposure. I mean, I can look up the sky a lot.
There's a lot of fears like that where they can't get exposure from it. So
exactly. And so I just kind of like researching a little more. And honestly, that's one that like I said, I currently have, and I should do more research because I'm still very much afraid of space. Don't at me.
And for me, I think one of my biggest... I was telling you guys earlier that I just had a really big problem with going out in general. And I hated especially going to grocery stores and gas stations. And I would wait till my gas light would come on. And I just felt like... Because I think I was raised with the idea that a guy can come up and put something over your face at a gas station.
The thing where they go under your car and slice your ankles. I'm sorry.
Yeah, these are other things, like, or getting your card information stolen, or like somebody can just get into your car while you go to the... So I had this fear of going to gas stations. So my therapist had me do the same thing as exposure therapy. Don't let your thing go down all the way. Pick a gas station close to your home so it's not too far. And so then they start to know you there.
Oh,
and that actually helped me a lot, because then the attendant would recognize me, and
your gas station.
It felt like a community thing instead of me feeling outside of it. So and also getting help, finding support systems. I think that's a great way to get through any kind of fears.
Oh, for sure.
Therapy always.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that kind of gets lost almost in terms of like the best way to get over a fear is your ability to laugh at it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's really, when you find something about your fear that you can sit there and just go, wait, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, that's when you can really let go of it.
Take the power out of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and own it almost. Like, the whole space thing. Like, whenever I've brought it up to people before, and then they're like, well, I'm going to use it to scare you. And it's like, I can't let you do that, because then I won't be a person anymore. Exactly. So it's like, I've at least gotten past that, where it's like...
Fantastic.
I can't, like, other people mentioning space doesn't scare me. It's my own horrible, horrible thoughts about space.
When I was maybe in my teens, that was when I was really starting to fight that whole fear of spiders thing. And so eventually, like, my culmination of it was, I'm going to watch Arachnophobia again. And so I sat down, I put the movie in, I put the exact, I started feeling like the shivers and the fucking scare things. And then I got to the end of the movie where Jeff Daniels is fighting a giant, stupid puppet spider.
And it's really bad.
It's really bad.
It's really bad.
You find it and you just go, oh, that's so stupid looking. He's fighting it with like a can of bug spray and like a lighter.
Oh my God, I forgot about the end of that movie.
Watching that and just going, this is stupid. How did this scare me when I was a kid?
Yeah.
So it's being able to take it and just really make fun of it. Just riff the shit out of it while you're watching it.
And it's one of those where it's like you're not necessarily after that going to run in and grab a handful of daddy long legs.
No.
But
you're not like
the power.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You're like
it's
exactly.
Which is a fantastic way of taking care of that.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Shelby, for joining us.
Sure,
it's been a fantastic conversation. And I think we're gonna have probably another one. This was really
absolutely
I liked this one.
Fun.
We'll definitely have Shelby back at some point.
Yes, please.
But as for us, follow us on Instagram at HAYHU Podcast, like the Facebook page, and if you want to send us something directly, go ahead and email mailbag@howareyouholdingup.com. Shelby, how do you want to plug yours?
You can follow my podcast, Scare You to Sleep. I'm on Instagram at Scare You to Sleep, Twitter at Scare You to Sleep, and email scarytosleep.com or at gmail.com.
At Gmail.
But yeah, you can send me stories. I read people's stories. Give it a listen and see if you have anything you want to send me, because I'm running low on stories, y'all.
We're totally going to be able to do that. So.
Well, and as always, guys,
Don't tell us to just get over it.